Hey everyone, Rachel Leah Gerson here of Doorway to Self, providing psychic education for all of you. I am feeling slightly under the weather today, so I will try my best to stay present with you and really make this awesome for you guys. I may cut out short just because of that, just so you know. Hey, thanks for coming on. But yeah, I did go within to try and figure out, there's such a balance with self-care when what you're doing is what you love. And it really feels to me like this is self-care. So I feel cool doing it. I've been really, really looking forward to this. So hey, thanks for coming on. So I'm live on Facebook and Instagram, and if you're watching later on YouTube, know that I do this every month, although there won't be one for December because holidays, everybody's kind of busy. So but you can look for the next one in January. If you sign up for the Doorway to Self email list, which you can find by going directly to doorwaytoself.com, you will always be notified of the next psychic Q&A as well as other upcoming events. So let's get started. So for those of you who haven't come on before, the way that this works is that people have sent in anonymous questions beforehand. I'll start off with a couple of those, but as you have questions, please feel free to just put them into the comment box, and I will read them and answer them. Hey Dana, thanks for coming on. I will read them and answer them as I complete my answers to other questions. So super excited to be here, super excited to have you guys here, and let's get the ball rolling on psychic education. Woo! All right, so the first question I got, hey Fairy, the first question I got is pretty complex actually. I'm really excited about this one, about psychic abuse. So it says, I know a lot of times when someone is doing energy work, they imagine light going into the other person. I guess I was wondering if psychic abuse, where someone is taking someone's energy, maybe they imagine that light coming from the other person and going into themselves or something. Also, maybe sending an entity to stay with the person. So, hey Kelly. So yeah, basically what this person is saying is, can you use visualization to create psychic abuse? Can you use can somebody use visualization or clairvoyance, psychic sight, in order to help with psychic abuse or psychic attack? And the answer is absolutely yes. Hey Brett, absolutely yes, you can. Just like you can use anything else. You could use auditory things, you could use smells, you could use really anything. If you're trying to psychically abuse somebody, which I hope you're not, or psychically attack somebody, you can use anything, and anyone can use anything against you. The thing is, and the key is just being aware of yourself and your surroundings and who you are. Form your own code of ethics, form your own understanding of who you are and what you're about and what you're okay and not okay with. So that's kind of my advice for that one, I would say. And then as far as this idea of sending another entity, absolutely. And I actually have very personal experience with that. When I was studying psychic training, when I was doing my own psychic training in the UK, I was working with an elder gentleman who, or not so gentleman, who sent an entity after me, and I don't want to completely bash this person because I did learn a lot of what I know from him, and you can learn more about that. I did a full video about my own training and what does it mean to find a mentor and all this sorts of stuff, and you can find that on YouTube if you search Doorway to Self. But basically, he told me he was sending this entity after me for protection, and that this thing was going to watch over me and keep me safe and blah-de-blah-de-blah. But my gut kept telling me, this isn't completely kosher. I don't know about this. And I remember being in my dorm room because I was in college at the time. I remember being in my flat room um and like seeing this thing like peering over my bed. I would wake up and it would just be like standing over me. um Not pleasant. And then of course your mind kind of doubles back and it's like, oh, but this person said that this was for protection and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. So yes, that's definitely something to watch out for. Go with your gut. Listen to your gut. Even if somebody tells you, hey, I'm sending this for protection, ask it yourself, test it yourself. Hey, are you here for my greatest good? And if the answer you get in your gut is absolutely not, this thing is not here for my greatest good, send it off. Tell it you don't want it there. Talk to the person directly who sent it and say, hey, you know what? I don't think this thing is meshing with me. And you can even kind of play on their side if you want to a little bit and say something to the effect of like, yeah, I know you sent this with good intention, even if they didn't, just try and play with their side a little bit. If you want to have less drama than normal. Hey, I know you sent this with good intention, but I don't think that this is the best thing for me. So I'd appreciate if you recall whatever this thing is that you sent after me. So I hope that that's helpful. Let's see, I'm gonna check in. It doesn't look like I have any live questions yet, so I'll move on to the next one. Let's see on Instagram. Nope. Okay. Do you find that a person's astrological sign greatly plays into their psychic abilities? And the person who is asking was specifically a Libra. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. And actually, when we go into psychic training, when I'm doing one-on-one psychic training with people, I really appreciate taking a look at their astrological chart in general, because yeah, maybe your sun sign is a Libra, but maybe, which is an air sign, I like particularly looking into the elements as well. So I think that the elements influence how you work. So let's say, okay, you're a Libra sun, but half your chart is in fire, right? You have like Sagittarius moon, Leo ascendant, Mercury and Leo, whatever it is. And so half your chart is in fire, but you have this Libra sun. I would definitely actually say that the fire is affecting you more than the air is. But also keeping in mind that the air is your personality. Because for those of you who don't know astrology, and I'm highly contemplating putting an e-course out there on how to read your own chart and all of that. So if that's something you're interested in, keep an eye out, because that will hopefully be coming out by this summer. But basically the idea is that, yeah, if you are trying to do some psychic training for yourself, you're trying to hone in on your own abilities, if you're looking at your personality in general, and especially one of Libra, right, you're looking at not only air, but you're looking at either balance or extremes. People tend to think of Libra as this extremely balanced, solid, whatever, but really, like, that's an evolved Libra. Every sign we look at has kind of like the child version and the evolved version. So if we're looking at Libra, the evolved version would be super balanced, super like, oh, what is justice, trying to look at both sides equally, etc. Whereas an unevolved Libra, or a child version of Libra, would be more one extreme or the other. We're looking at maybe even, those of you who know me know how I harp on the whole mental illness thing and how all of this plays into that. If you see somebody who has bipolar disorder with a ton of Libra in their chart, guess what? They're probably just a seriously unevolved Libra who is going from one extreme to the other. So that's also something to look at. And if you're talking about psychic ability with that, you know, and you're and you're a Libra, then yeah, you know, if we're talking maybe clear empathy or something like that, you could be picking up on extremes of people's emotions and taking them on as your own. That's definitely a possibility. Or let's say you have a ton of water in your chart. You might be more deeply in tune with seeing through to the core of people. Or let's say you have a lot of earth in your chart. Maybe a lot of your psychic ability is based in grounding and where you are in your body and feeling that psychic energy in your body, all of that kind of stuff. So I hope that that's helpful. Let's see, we have a few in the live feed now. Kimberly says, this happened to me. I just couldn't keep the crystal she gave me in my house. Yeah, so I think this is referring to somebody sending an entity out for psychic attack. And yeah, people can absolutely infuse objects with energy. You know, when we talk about charging crystals, I have a great story for you guys. So I was working a convention. Some of you actually came and saw me. It was so wonderful. The Mind Body Spirit Convention in Grand Rapids. I worked that a couple weeks ago. And I had a run-in with this other reader who was just clearly there to test my ethical boundaries. And you know, I really love this organization, because I called them right after and I told the owners what happened, and they were like, oh my gosh, we cannot have a reader like that in our space. Like, they're so concerned with having super high vibe, super truthful, super honest people in their places, in their exhibitions. But anyways, so this guy came over to me and he, you know, made a couple, firstly, okay, we talked about this in the last video about how somebody can be a psychic vampire purely through language, right? And that's what this person was doing. He came, he sat at my booth, and he started telling me how he's this amazing psychic, which, by the way, if you meet anybody who says that they're just this incredible individual in their field, either they're not that incredible, because why would you have to boast about yourself if you really are that amazing, or they are and they just have ridiculously low self-esteem and have to continue to remind themselves of how great they are, and make themselves feel better in the presence of others. But anywho, so he came over, he started talking, and I was just like, oh yeah, I do that too. You know, whatever. Yeah, I do that too. And then he'd find something else to kind of one-up me type thing. And I was just like, oh, goodness. Okay. And it got to the point where at the end of the day, I was reading cards for the person in the booth next to me. She was so wonderful, and she had given me a free reading. And I was like, ugh, I have to. She was doing free readings for people all day. And her products are amazing, by the way. They're like chakra enhancers. Oh goodness, what's KarinaEden.com is where you can find her stuff. It's really amazing stuff. But anyways, so I was giving her a reading, and this guy came over to my booth and he flipped a card for her. So unethical, so unappreciated. And so of course I didn't want to make a scene while she was there, and he left directly after that. And so the next morning, oh, thanks, Perry. Perry says, loved them. Yeah. Hey, Stacy. So the next morning, I found the guy, and it was like this really nice test, right? Where he actually had come over to my booth to see if I was okay with what had happened. It was like this nice little test of like, let me show up and see if she says anything, see if I'd gotten away with it. And as soon as and by the way, he approached me from behind, which is major, like, hell no. Like, that is like psychic vampirism to the highest. Like, no. So he approached me from behind. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he was like, hi, I came over to say hi. And I'm like, yeah, we actually have to talk. I have something to talk to you about. And immediately he was like, oh shit, I'm caught. And he's like, oh yeah, I wanted to apologize. Let me give you this crystal. And so he gave me this crystal, and I'm feeling this thing, and I'm like, I don't know about this, okay. And he doubled back, just like my mentor had in England, right? Oh, I'm sending this entity to you with good intentions, right? The same idea. This guy gives me the crystal, and he's like, oh, and I just want you to know I didn't do anything bad to it. It's all good intentions. It's going to bring people to your booth, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as he left, I was just like, okay, yeah, right. So I brought the crystal outside, and I buried it under some leaves, and I asked that that energy be grounded and whatever cords were in it be broken, stuff like that. So, and then the rest of the day was phenomenal. And so, yeah, absolutely. I do wonder if I had kept that crystal at my booth, what would have happened? It's just people can put things into things, pieces of jewelry, herbs, plastic, literally anything can be infused with energy. So if you have a bad gut feeling about someone and they give you something, I would suggest either clearing that thing or getting rid of it. And that's that. Oh goodness, why can I not? I can't seem to go up. Okay, there we go. Oh, hey, Bronwyn. Okay, so Dana says, being raised Catholic, psychic abilities were considered evil. Any thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. So I actually touched on this in a prior Q&A. Somebody had asked me, can you be psychic and Christian? And my answer to that is, if you're human, you're psychic. So absolutely. Oh, why did that just happen? Oh no, my live video went away. Okay, there we go. That's what happens when you have to have cell service on when you're doing a live. Anyways, yeah. Okay. Any thoughts? So my first question posed to you is, what do these people who talk to God do? Right? They're enforcing psychic ability. Priests, pastors, deacons, whatever, whomever these people are who communicate with God in whatever capacity that may be. And I want to be clear, I'm not doing these quotes because I'm, shaming religion or anything like that. I'm very accepting of any religion that comes into my office. But the thing is, they're employing psychic ability in order to connect with source or God or creator or whatever you want to call the thing up there that is being preached. So they're employing psychic ability. And the idea is that those people are in positions of power. People in positions of power don't like other people to have power for the most part. And so by telling congregations, this is evil, it means the only people who can access those things, those abilities, and not feel guilty about it are the people in positions of power. Yeah, it's a thing. So yeah, being psychic is not evil. People higher up in the church do it. That's all I have to say about that. I hope that helps. Kelly says, what stones, crystals do you recommend to protect your energy, clear your energy, or enhance intuition? So I love this question. I get this question a lot. And the answer you're going to hear from most people is, oh, well, amethyst is great for protection and enhancing intuition. And, it's good, clear quartz is great for this, and blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Don't use the internet. Don't ask people. Go into a store, go into a crystal store, or even just go online and type in crystals and Google images and look at the pictures. The best crystal for you is the one that calls to you. Listen to your gut. What does that crystal mean to you? Because yes, amethyst could mean enhancement of intuition and protection and all of that stuff to someone else. And it may not mean that for you. Or it may mean that for you, but maybe also, I don't know, green tourmaline does that for you even better. So listen to your gut, go within, really do that, really, really connect with this thing. When we think of tools, like crystals, like herbs, like, you know, incense, like anything like that, a lot of the time, as humans, that's all we're thinking about them as, is tools. We aren't thinking about them as something that we can cultivate a relationship with. And that's what crystals are. When you get a crystal, you are cultivating a relationship with that thing in order to get the most out of it. And also in order for it to connect with you, right? It's kind of like, how can you expect to have a friendship with somebody where you're doing nothing and they're giving everything to you? It's the same idea. So I know that that's very vague. And I know that that's not the answer that you wanted to hear, probably because it means you have to go out and do the work now. What I will tell you is that scientifically, in terms of clearing and protecting your energy, malachite and black tourmaline have both scientifically been proven, like actual science, proven to clear the air around you, to clear the air from electromagnetic fields, so stuff from your laptop, from your TV, from your phone, to clear the air in general, you know, whatever. So if you're trying to clear your fields, those are some really great tools. And actually, while I was at that convention, I partnered with biotech, and they sell black tourmaline soap, which is so incredible. And I'm now distributing that as well. So if you're interested in that, it is so amazing, and it like cleans your skin like no other day, like rips the electromagnetic fields right out of it. As soon as I get done with a day of really intense clientele or something like that, I jump in the shower, I wash my whole body. I even wash my hair with that soap because it's like, just clears everything. So yeah, so those would be the two things that are like scientifically proven that actually legitimately are going to clear your field. Other than that, I would say go within, really do your research, but not in the way of reading and books and all that stuff, but researching yourself, right? Researching yourself in relation to these other things. And the other thing about that too is that maybe one amethyst or one citrine or one calcite or whatever is going to interact with you in one way, and another one may not. So those of you who have gone into crystal stores and like picked up the stone and been like, no, not that one. You pick another one up and you're like, yeah, that one's the one for me. It's because that's the one you're supposed to have a relationship with. So I would shy away from doing anything online or anything like that, unless you really get like a deep, deep feeling of like, this is the stone for me. And also, if you're looking specifically for things that are infused with energy or handpicked for you or already wire wrapped or anything like that, I know Bronwyn's watching right now and she does amazing stuff. And so I would definitely check her out. Yeah, so Bronwyn Wraps on Facebook, and also Meadow Expressions is amazing as well. I know a lot of you have seen her stuff at Cassandra's retreats if you've been there as well. So okay, let's see. Okay, and then Dana, oh, you're welcome, Kelly. I'm glad I could answer that for you. Dana says, I struggle with this ingrained belief versus the actual truth. I'm not quite sure what that means. So if you could just flesh that out for me a little bit more, I'd be happy to answer that for you. You make sure there's nothing on Instagram here. It doesn't look like it. Okay, I'm going to do another sent question. Do you ever use psychometry, and how would you strengthen that ability? So psychometry is also known as clairtangency. It is the ability to be able to touch something and receive psychic information from it. So essentially, like if I were to touch my dear sister plant here, I literally mean that. This plant has been around since before I was born. If I touch this plant here, I would get all sorts of information from touching it, not from being next to it, not from listening to it, not from looking at it, but from touching it. So as soon as I have the physical touch, as soon as you shake the person's hand, as soon as you pick up the old antique mirror in the antique store, as soon as you pat the child on the back, whatever it is, it's the touch. It is the physical touch that gives you that information. I do not personally have this ability strengthened at this point. I do not care to. I feel like I have enough going on with everything else I have employed and worked on. But I do know other people who have it, and I do work with clients who utilize it. And in terms of strengthening it, I would just touch different objects and see what you get from them. And, you know, what's more, if you really want to be tested, go into an antique store. And I mean, obviously using protection, right? You're going to want to ground and clear afterwards and make sure that you're fully embodying yourself and all of that good stuff. But go into an antique store where you know the owner knows the stories behind the items that they carry. Pick up an object, get the information from it, talk to the store owner. Hey, you know, where did this come from? And affirm or not affirm whatever you are feeling about that. So that's one way. Another way would be to work with somebody who can inject energy into things, where, you know, maybe they have 10 crystals and each crystal they pick up, they inject a different memory into it or a different emotion or a different image or something like that. And then when you pick up those crystals or you touch them or whatever it is, you get that information and you repeat it back to them. Hey, is this what this is? And they can affirm you yes or no. So those are probably the most basic ways to do that. Cool. Let's see. Y'all are quiet today. I normally have like a gajillion questions in the feed. Okay. All right. Well, when you have questions, just pop them on in because yeah, I think that's all the advanced questions I got. I guess I can go into some general questions that I've received a lot lately. Not in this context. One would be, what is 5D? Everybody's talking about 5D everywhere, all over Instagram, all over Facebook, in every spiritual community ever. What is this fifth dimension 5D thing? So I'm going to take a minute to harp on the spiritual community for a minute, because there's this thing that happens that's really dangerous. And those of you who were at my 11-11-11 workshop, you've already heard this. So there's this thing in the spiritual community that happens where somebody comes up with a phrase or an idea or something and then explains it to a few people. And then those few people feel really elite for knowing this thing. And so they start talking about it over and over and over and over, but not actually explaining to the broad audience what this thing is. And so then the broad audience goes out and, oh yeah, 5D, oh yeah, blah, 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 or whatever it is. And everybody just kind of pretends like they know what they're talking about rather than actually becoming educated on it. And that is something that I think is really hurting us so much, because then what happens is these people will run into somebody who's extremely logic minded or extremely science minded or you know, whatever, and they can't explain these concepts because they don't know what they are. And so I would really, really encourage you to get educated, whether it's through watching these videos or you know, researching on YouTube or on people's blogs or Googling or, you know, whatever it is, if you don't know what a phrase is, if you don't know what something means and it's being said over and over and over again, go find out so that you know what it is. When I did the 11-11-11 workshop and I was talking about this, I asked how many people in the room. There were 29 people in the room, and I asked how many of them had heard this term 5D, and about half the people in the room raised their hands. And then I asked them how many of them actually knew what it meant, and only 4 people kept their hands up. That's pretty significant. So I'm going to tell you guys what it is, because it's a question that's been asked a lot of me lately, which thank you for asking, people who are asking. 5D, so basically this whole dimensional theory thing comes from actual science. It started being developed in the 1980s, looked into, and it's called string theory. There is tons of information out there on string theory. All you have to do is Google it or YouTube it. You will find so much stuff. But basically, string theory, which has since been proven, it took years and years and years and years to prove it, but it has since been proven. String theory denotes that we have several different dimensions in our universe. And right now, as human beings, we are in the 3rd dimension. So first dimension is like flatter than flat. It's basically like a particle, okay? Second dimension, 2D, is what you're looking at on your screen right now, right? It's flat. There is no affect to it. It's just a flat screen, okay? Books are the pages in books are 2D. The writing in books is 2D. You know, the surface of a table is 2D. It's anything that's a flat surface, or a flat image. 3D is being human, right? It's furniture, it's human bodies, it's buildings, it's anything that has an actual, you know, outer dimension to it, where it is physically, you can see it from a bunch of different angles. You can touch it from a bunch of different angles. It's, you know, built up. It's solid. That's 3D. 4D is kind of this bridge where we're at right now. 4D is all emotional. So it's these things that are experiences, memories, pain, anger, joy, happiness, gratitude, frustration, any sort of memory or emotion that you feel, that is 4D. So it's this thing that lives within the 3D, right? It's living within the human body, within the human experience, and we have access to it, but we can't really like touch it. We have some things to describe it, but not really, you know, all sorts of things like that. So that would be 4D. 5D is where we're at in this video. 5D is psychic stuff. 5D is the dimension where we can access our psychic selves, our psychic bodies, our psychic abilities, you know, etc. These things that have been dampened down and pushed down for the last, you know, several centuries. We're finally regaining access to again. And so when people are talking about this jump from 3D to 5D, where are we going? That's what they're referring to, is going from this extremely physical realm where we can touch and feel to this place where we can't touch and feel and grasp in a physical way. But we can grasp and feel it in a psychic way. And that's really, really hard for human beings to wrap their brains around, right? Because if you can't, you know, these things like seeing is believing, or give me the proof and I'll believe it, or, you know, something like that. When it's not tangible, it's hard to do those things. So I hope that that's helpful for you guys. Still no other questions? This is crazy. You guys. Oh, okay. Well, we still have about 20 minutes left, so if you guys have anything else that pops into your beautiful minds, you're more than welcome to drop it into the comment box. In the meantime, I suppose I will talk a little bit about how you can work with me. Right now, I actually have a promotion going, which basically never happens. So if you've been wanting to work with me one-on-one, or you've been wanting to give the gift of working with me one-on-one to somebody you know and love, I now have gift cards available for the holidays. And I've actually taken a percentage off of all of those gift card services on my website. So if you go to doorwaytoself.com/services, you'll find a little button that says gift cards, and you can push that. And if you want to give your own amounts, you can just hit me up via email, doorwaytoself@gmail.com, and just let me know what amount you're looking to do. I've already had a couple people get them as gifts for friends, family members, etc. It's really a beautiful gift for the holidays, whether it's somebody who's never had a reading before, or somebody who has been wanting to really get in touch with themselves or with their psychic abilities, stuff like that. You know, it's just a cool way to acknowledge them in that. So again, if you go to doorwaytoself.com/services, you can find that stuff there. That promo will be going until December 15th. So you have about 2 weeks to get that discount, but gift cards will be available after then as well. So that's something going on. Goodness, I can't believe you guys don't have more questions for me. What is this? Okay. All right. Okay, so I guess we will continue to just kind of chat about what it is we can do together. What does a session with me look like? Whether you're coming in for metaphysical inner guidance or you're coming in for psychic training, I do sessions online and in person. So if you are not in the Grand Rapids area, I do sessions via Zoom, Google Hangouts, Skype, stuff like that. So that's an option. Always happy to work with you that way. Otherwise, if you're in Grand Rapids, I'm based out of the Wellness Collective. And consultations happen the same way for metaphysical inner guidance or psychic training. Basically, you would come in. We do this real cool thing where I turn the lights down completely. We work via salt lamp and candlelight, and we chat. I give you as much space as you need. The first session is 90 minutes. Some people choose to use that entire 90 minutes to talk because I'm the first person they've seen who's actually accepting of these stories that they've had bottled up for sometimes decades. Things that they haven't felt comfortable telling anybody else for fear of being sent to a mental institution, or people not believing them, or sounding crazy, or you know, unaffirming them in what's happened. And so what I do is I just hold space for you while you share that stuff, because you need to get that out and off your chest. And speaking it makes it so real, right? It makes it so real to finally say, you know, when I was 12 years old, I saw a figure of a man standing in my room, and I didn't know who it was or why it was there. And I told my mom about it, and she didn't believe me. And ever since then, I've always wondered about it. What was it? Who was it? And then we might dive into that. We might dive into who was that figure? What's his connection to you? Why was he there? You know, trying to figure that out. Or we might just continue talking and you just like throw up all of your stories that you've been hijacking for yourself and from yourself for so long. So there's that. And then for people who are kind of more geared towards wanting to do the psychic training work, we would do psychic diagnostics, which basically run through what psychic abilities you have. It's a questionnaire. I also might have you tell some of your own stories or examples as well. And we flesh out, do you have clairvoyance, which is psychic sight, or clairaudience, which is psychic hearing, clairempathy, the ability to feel other people's pain or emotions, things like that. So that's something we could also do. Or we could jump from the talking into something else, like pulling up your astrological chart to learn a little bit more about who you are and how you work, or doing your numerological chart to find out what your life's path and purpose are. I do tend to see a lot of people who are looking for purpose work, who are extremely lost and don't know who they are or what they mean to this earth, or what the earth means to them. And it's really beautiful and rewarding to work with people like that for a couple sessions and all of a sudden see the light bulbs go off and have them be like, oh my gosh, I think I know what this is. I think I get it. I'm ready to keep moving forward, and you know, all sorts of stuff like that. So, oh, cool. It looks like we have a couple questions. So yeah, we might do that. We also could do cards or energy work, anything like that. And sessions are really tailored to the individual. So it's really up to you and what you need and who you are. And so I can tell you all I want about what like a basic intro session would look like, but you know, it's going to look completely different for every single individual. I've never had the same session for any person, so keeps it real exciting. But anyways, let's see what other questions you guys have put on here. What is your opinion on Reiki? I have found it to be very helpful, says Kelly. Yeah, Reiki's awesome. I don't personally practice it. I practice a different energy work method called twisting the bone, which focuses on physical ailments as well as clearing energetic fields. But Reiki's awesome. I've had it done. I know a lot of people who are very close to me who do it. It's wonderful. Yeah, that's my opinion on it. Well, let me add a clause to that. It's wonderful if the practitioner doing it is ethical in doing it. If the person doing it has done their training, if the person doing it has done their inner work to know what's theirs and what's not, if the person doing it is not infusing their own energy into you and is working directly with a third kind of partitioning energy that is, you know, between them and you, using source energy or earth energy or, you know, whatever it is, that's when Reiki's great, if that person is using those ethics. So make sure when you're looking for an energy work practitioner of any sort, whether it's a Reiki practitioner, any other energy practitioner, make sure you ask the right questions. Don't just go see anybody. Make sure you do your research. Hey, you know, person, I'm interested in working with you. I'm wondering, how much time have you spent on inner work? And if they get really defensive right off the bat, that's when you know that they haven't done yeah. I've seen it happen multiple times. It's cute. Emily says, can you talk a little bit about balancing using psychic tools versus relying on them too much as yet another way to not trust yourself? Oh, that's a golden question. Thank you for that. That's big. And tough. I would say that you know best when you're lying to yourself. If you are constantly and consistently trying to do research, trying to pull out your cards for every single question. You have a crystal in your pocket, and you won't let it leave your side for anybody. You know, that might be, or every time you freak out, you know, go to a crystal store and buy a jillion crystals. That might be a good tip off of, this is too much. You're relying too much on tools. The other thing I would suggest is meditation. If you get to that point, or you're even at a point where you're questioning, am I relying on tools rather than on myself? I would definitely suggest laying down or sitting down and doing meditation, whatever that means to you, or even standing up. I mean, there are so many different methods of meditation. I know I've talked about myofascial release on here way too many times, but that's a form of standing and moving meditation, or ecstatic dance, or something like that, which would actually, those things would actually also help to relieve you from the anxiety that might be pent up too about getting answers. So if you're really focused on, how do I get answers for this thing? That's another tip off too. If that's your motivating factor, if you're like, how do I get answers for this? What is the answer for this? Blah, 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 blah. And then you're, you know, going out to every single herb and crystal and whatever store. You know, that's a definite tip off. Can you sit in stillness knowing that the universe is going to give you the answer? And that's the toughest part of this work. It is something that I still struggle with. I'm not telling you I'm sitting here playing God right now, because I don't have that figured out. I don't think that most practitioners do. It's really, really tough. And it varies, you know. I mean, I'm definitely at a different point now than I was before I started really doing this work. You know, a decade ago, I definitely would have been researching for like, until I got the answer. Even if it was a year later or whatever, I would go on Google every night, or go on YouTube every night, or work out the numerology of every single possible associated word, or sit in a crystal store for hours, or, you know, whatever it was. I would do it until I got the answer. And if I didn't get the answer, I would freak out. Where now it might just be a few hours of me like avidly searching before I'm finally like, okay, Rachel, you just need to trust that the answer is going to come and it's going to be okay. And there might be some relapses after that. I can tell you that this Venus retrograde cycle that just happened was very challenging for me on that front. And I really had to stop and tell myself, you have to trust. You just have to trust. And then I would calm down for a little bit. And it takes practice. It really takes practice to just trust and just be present and just know that the answer is going to come eventually, whether it's in 5 days or 1 day or 10 years. And so then it's about practicing patience too, which is so hard in this society where we have instant rice and Netflix plays the next episode in 5 seconds. So yeah, I hope that that's helpful. Hey, Natasha, thanks for coming on. All right. Cool. Well, we're about 10 minutes from the hour. And I am feeling very called to go take care of myself, because I am feeling slightly under the weather. So I'm going to go rest. But I really, really appreciate you guys being here so much. I love all of your questions. Please keep them coming. As I said, there will not be one of these in December, but you can look for one in January. I'll post an event on Facebook just like I did for the last couple of these. And if you want the info even sooner than the Facebook event, you can sign up for the Doorway to Self email list. I don't spam you. I only email once to twice a week, once on Mondays to kind of give you an overview of the energy of the week and any upcoming events. And then I also email you on days where astrological articles are released, or guided meditations, or there's an event that day or something like that. So I don't spam. Not about that. So there's that. As far as upcoming events, I'm looking to do an event in California in the middle of December. So I'll have more info on that. It's probably coming out in the email list soon. And please be sure, if you haven't already, liked and followed Doorway to Self on Facebook, on Instagram, at Doorway to Self. Please come follow. I'm super excited. I'm almost at 700 followers on Instagram and Facebook. So please come follow. Be the 700th person. You might get a little surprise out of it. And yeah, I think that's about it. Come follow on YouTube too. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and the replay of this with the minutes of all of the questions will be listed too. So if you want to go back and use it as a reference and you're like, oh, where was that one question about how to choose the right crystal? You can see in the bottom, I'll put exactly where the minute is and what the question is, and you can quickly go back and reference that. So I'll be posting that within the next couple days, and I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. I'll share the link on the Doorway to Self Facebook page as well. So that's about all. I'm sending you guys so much love, and thank you again so much for joining. I will see you again in January.